Okay, it's been an intense couple of days of victories, but big fights to come. We got a great lineup of guests tonight. Want to take a deep breath here, get everybody settled. I want to go first to the Supreme Court. We've got Star News Network's Neil McCabe is on the steps of the Supreme Court. Neil, a historic argument today at the Supreme Court. Walk our audience through what happened.
Yeah, basically, Steve, 7 years ago, an assistant football coach in Bremerton, Washington, was fired because he was praying by himself on the 50-yard line, and the school district said that this was untoward. They said it was an endorsement of religion, and they asked him to stop. He wouldn't stop. They fired him, and so he sued, and it's taken 7 years. And it looked like the justices, especially Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas, are really geared up to give this guy what he wants and give him his job back and really clean up some of the conflicting laws that have really troubled the First Amendment on the religious side going back the last 50 years, Steve.
Okay, I want to make sure, Neil, people understand this, that a football coach goes to midfield and prays by himself. And the school district out there in Bremerton said that this was against the separation of church and state, and they fired him, and that this individual had the courage to take this and fight through the courts over 7 years.
Right. And what they said, Steve, at first they said it was an endorsement of religion, which was against their policy. They argued today that it was coercion because he was in some way forcing or somehow compelling the players to participate with him, but there was no evidence for that, and that really hurt the school district's case because in all of their sanctions and all of their correspondence, they were talking about endorsement, and so when they talked about coercion, the justices just didn't see it, and it just sort of confused them. Another thing that hurt the school district is that this coach wouldn't back down, and so he started writing letters to the editor, he started having rallies, he started talking to the media, and that just made the school district angry, and they started targeting him. And that was part of it, the fact that they targeted him for his practice of religion.
Let's go. You said Kavanaugh and Thomas. What you had a chance to listen to that. Walk us through what were the questions, or why would you come to the conclusion that they were your perception is they're pretty geared up for this?
Yeah, well, first of all, Thomas is now the dean of the justices, and so he is the one who opens up questioning now. And immediately he hit the school district with the question of what if somebody knelt to protest racism for the national anthem? And that sort of completely flummoxed the school district attorney. Alito went after him and said, hey, what if somebody kneels down to protest Ukraine? So it's like, is it politics or religion? And the school district didn't have an answer for it. Kavanaugh asked, hey, what if a judge is making the sign of the cross? Or what if a field goal kicker makes the sign of the cross before he kicks a field goal? And the school district judge says, well, if it's private, then it's okay. And Kavanaugh is saying, well, what do you mean it's private? The coach is on the sideline. The kicker is in the middle of the field. And then the school district attorney said, well, as long as they're not the center of attention. And at that point, Kavanaugh said, we can't draw a constitutional line depending on whether somebody makes themselves the center of attention. And so it just proved the sort of absurdity of their case. And that's why I think it's going to fall, Steve.
Neil, you're a service member.
Yeah.
You've served your country and continue to. We always talk about patriotism here and patriots and courage and folks, self-reliance, all the great values that made America what it is today. Walk us through just for a second. For 7 years, this coach fought this, not just in the courts. He said he wrote editorials. He had rallies. I mean, he was not going to back down. He had every opportunity to back down, just accept what they did, go get another coaching job, go do your thing. But for 7 years, he's fought this. Walk us through that for a second.
Well, you know, Steve, you served with the Marines. I served with the Marines. It's a different breed. This guy is a Gulf War combat veteran of the Marine Corps. And at one point, the school talked to him. They said, listen, we want you to tap the brakes. We want you to sort of stop what you're doing. And he had a meeting with them, and he said, all right, I'm I'm going to behave myself. I'm going to be a good guy. And he said as he was driving home that night, he realized that he was breaking a commitment to the Lord. And he had made a commitment to the Lord that he was going to thank God for what the Lord has done in his life. And he came back the next day and he told the school district, I'm not going to do it. And it's that faith that's really carried him. But, you know, it doesn't hurt when you're a Marine and you go through Parris Island.
I got to tell you, that's a Marine for you. Yes, you're right. Both of us as naval in the Navy have had the honor to serve with the Marines. I've got to tell you, and I've got to tell Leahy this. I've seen a lot of shots at the Supreme Court. That shot where you have the camera right now, Neil, I'm going to take a picture. It's the best shot I've ever seen of the Supreme Court of any correspondent out there. You've got you and your I take it you are your cameraman too, or your cameraman's got a great eye for this. Neil, walk us through one more time.
I yell at Anthony all the time, but he's very pleased to hear this. I yell at Anthony constantly, but he's smiling right now, Steve. Thank you.
Anthony, I got to give you a hat tip. I mean, we do pickups of the Supreme Court because it's just right there. We do pickups all the time. That's the single best shot I've ever seen at the Supreme Court. In fact, I think we'll frame that. Neil, this will be one of the ones that comes out in June. We're only a couple of months away. I mean, this is one people have been waiting for a long time, particularly people that are devout and think that this situation with church and state has gotten out of control. Right? When do they anticipate? That there'll be a judgment on this or a response on this?
Yeah, well, they're going to still be hearing cases through May. But I'll tell you, Steve, really the theme of this session of the Supreme Court is cleaning up a lot of these narrow decisions and a lot of this confusing jurisprudence. You're seeing it in the New York gun case. You're seeing it in the Texas abortion case. And you're seeing it with this freedom of religion case. So what you're really going to see is that this new court that Trump assembled is going to start to make some sweeping overturns, and it's really going to straighten out some of this jurisprudence for a lot of things, Steve. At the end of June is when the session ends.
In the June, so starts. Neil, you guys are doing an incredible job at Star News Network. Just really want to thank you guys for all the coverage you're giving, all these different vital arguments and throughout the country in the news, all the different battleground states. So really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Neil McCabe with a great shot right there in front of the Supreme Court. Breaking news. It looks like something's happened on Title 42 and it's happened in Missouri. We're going to get Erik Greitens on here in a second to discuss it with us. But I want to go. We had an amazing convention over the weekend, and we were very honored right before that convention to have a woman who's running for Secretary of State in Michigan, which is obviously one of the most controversial of all the Secretary of State positions, Karamo. Kristina, thank you very much for joining us. Can you tell us yesterday or Saturday what happened? It was just incredible. The feedback we were getting in real time, the footage we saw. Put us in the room. What was it like on Saturday? I think you won with 2/3 of the vote, but put us in the room with the intensity, because we had so many War Room Posse members that were were reaching out to us saying they're there. They couldn't be more excited. So tell us what happened.
It was a great day. So I had three people in the race, and we were feeling very good going into the race. Our early polling had suggested that we would get 63% of the vote at least. But we worked hard to the bitter end. That's just the kind of thing that we do as our campaign, and myself as an individual. We work hard and we continue to whip votes. And we came out victorious with 67% of the vote back. So that shows you the resounding support our candidacy has for Secretary of State. And it's really a microcosm of the type of support we will get statewide as we begin to appeal to the average voter in the state of Michigan.
Kristina, we just lost audio here for a second, but here, can you tell us about Matt DePernas? I understand he did not win on the first round, but then he got over the hump in the second round. I'm having a little difficulty hearing you, but go ahead and let our audience hear it.
Yeah, so there's a second ballot, and we got up there and we supported him on the second ballot, and we were really happy to see him be victorious. So it was definitely a Trump ticket we saw come through victorious at our convention. And it's so important for people to understand regarding the MAGA movement. And you've talked about this before, Steve, is that the MAGA movement is really about fighting for people. And even the people who don't like us, even the people who can't stand us, we are fighting for our fellow citizens, because that's the only way we're going to take our freedom and maintain our freedom, is by ensuring that citizens are empowered to stand up. So we're feeling very excited going out in the cycle. My Democratic opponent is already attempting to, smear me as a crazy person. But one of the very funny things is that she's going to hide behind her little wall, her little tower, because if she goes up and is asked a difficult question by the member of the public, she won't be able to stand scrutiny. If you look at Michigan politics, of the three members of the executive branch, Jocelyn Benson is the most protected member of the executive branch. Why? Because they have to protect the fraud that we all know occurred in 2020. And by attacking her on any level, it would necessarily cause the exposure of that fraud to occur, spill out into the public, and our entire media enterprise, if you exist, it will exist in America, will be destroyed in one blow, because more people in the public will realize how much they lied. And with Dinesh D'Souza's film, 2000 Mules, coming out, I believe, next week, the timing could not be better. I mean, the timing of his film coming out is just, it's like something from beyond. It's almost like God did it, seriously, in a sense that right after this convention vote, where folks who are committed to fighting against election fraud, who are committed to protecting our election system, which is a national security issue, win, then suddenly, not suddenly, but then a week later, a movie comes out with surveillance footage. And this is the funny part. So we've done a lot of interviews today and talking with folks, and I point out that this isn't a conspiracy theorists and election deniers, all these silly little things they like to say, which aren't silly because they're actually complicit in the cover up and their surveillance footage of fraud. So at that point, what can anyone say? And anyone who tries to downplay it is shown to be complicit. And I think the people of America in Michigan need to ask themselves, why was our media so invested in covering up Jocelyn Benson's crimes? Like I said, if Michiganders ask themselves one question: why is Jocelyn Benson the most protected member of the executive branch? Because to expose her would mean to expose what we all know to be true.
How is your campaign, now that you're past this phase of it, do you think it's going to resonate with the broader population in Michigan? Because we keep hearing on situations like, 3 November, that President Trump just keeps beating the same drum, that you got all these crazies at the war room. You've got all these crazy MAGA people, and, they may be nice people, but they're dangerous, but they're crazy. And so this is going to fall on deaf ears in Michigan, and particularly in big metropolitan areas like Detroit. What's your thoughts on that?
One of the ways is the Secretary of State, does other things outside of elections. Like we call SOS branch offices that many states call DMV. And so that's a big issue of contention, that bipartisan people are frustrated with the current office holder. But in order for us to combat the deceptive media, it's going to require a lot of footwork. Because even when we initially launched our candidacy, there was skepticism. But we outworked everyone, and it's shown that we had the best message. We understand what people need, and we had the best plan to get the job done. And we're going to replicate that same model on the general scale, which of course is going to be a lot more work. I mean, there's 9 million residents in the state of Michigan, but we're going to replicate that model and have those more personal conversations with people, with small groups, to get our message out. Because as you acknowledge, the media is so deceptive. They're so deceptive and have effectively brainwashed so many people in the public that anybody who points out obvious evidence is somehow a bad person. It's really, it's terrifying, to be quite frank. However, I do see a beacon of hope, in the sense that when you look at situations like COVID, Fauci, and all these individuals have been proven liars, and how the media covered up for them, now many members of the public have become a lot more skeptical of media narrative, way more skeptical. And I think that when us who are knee deep in politics, I think sometimes we may forget that, because as we've already began to talk to independents and Democrats, and I began to point out concerns I have regarding elections, they agree with me. They agree with me. It's kind of like the way the media does with polls. They'll show a poll showing a person up by 15 points. In reality, that's not accurate. It's the bandwagon fallacy. So they want to encourage the bandwagon fallacy. So if the poll is showing that this person is 15 points up, then by golly, I should vote for that person. So they're attempting to do the same thing when we speak about corruption in our election system. So they demonize so much that they expect everyone to follow along. But as you begin to talk to more everyday Michiganders and point out the concerns, most people agree with us. It's just that the people with the biggest megaphones are the ones trying to suppress citizen oversight of our election system.
You know, I had the Speaker of the House of Tennessee on this morning about what they did on redistricting and how Tennessee is leading the MAGA movement. And I made the comparison to Michigan. We see that convention over the weekend in the Grassroots, and we had Patty McMurray on this morning to talk about the intensity. Kristina, I don't know if you fully appreciate this, but you represent not just the best in this country, you represent the best of the MAGA movement and really the inclusive nature of our inclusive nationalism and participatory populism. I want to make sure everybody in this audience has an opportunity to both share in your victory, but also to help you out as you go forward. Because I understand that you're going to run a grassroots campaign. That's the only way it can be, because you're not going to have a ton of big donors in back of you. You're a grassroots fighter. So how can people in our audience that are not familiar with you, that want to learn more, how do people in the audience nationwide that want to somehow participate in your campaign in this great crusade you've got going on in Michigan? How can people, where do they go and how do they help?
Yeah, they can go to my website, KristinaKaramo.com. Oops, sorry. Kristina with a K, KristinaKaramo.com. And that's so important because, as you mentioned, our campaign is a grassroots campaign, and many everyday citizens feel disenfranchised because they say, well, I don't have the millions of dollars to run a campaign. However, if we all chip in, you can overcome that burden. And so we are seeing wealthy donors who are patriots support our campaign, but we need more everyday people to chip in. We complain about the Bloombergs and the Soros and the Zuckerbergs of the world, but we can't complain about them if we're not willing to financially support the patriots we believe in. And the reason why the left is so fixated on Michigan, because Michigan is a battleground state. Michigan is really critical to the survival of our republic. The seat of the presidency comes through Michigan. That's why Jocelyn Benson was put there. She was part of George Sorrell's Secretary of State project. She's not even from Michigan. She's from Pennsylvania. She used to work for the Southern Poverty Law Center. So that tells you what she's about. You know, that tells you what's going on with her. They put her there intentionally, and the leftists across America are pouring money into her race. So I need patriots across America to support me in order to support and protect our nation. So I need your financial support. And if you're in Michigan, share our video, share our content, help get the message out. Even though the globalist left that we're up against have a lot of money, we have the people. We just have to do the work and all do our little part, and we'll overcome them.
By the way, when all the word posse, it's become a force multiplier. It doesn't cost you any money. Just go to her site and push out that content nonstop. You can't believe how that helps. Kristina, you're a hero and a patriot. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. God bless, Steve. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, ma'am. Great victory. Kristina Karamo. Let's go to Oregon now. You might think that Oregon is something that should be written off by MAGA. I can't say that is wrong enough. That's why we have Joe Kent out in Washington. The people are pulling for, and I want to introduce Kerry McQuisten from Oregon. She's running for governor. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you walk us through why it's not a total waste of time for someone that's America First, for someone that's MAGA, for somebody who's part of this movement to run to be governor of Oregon?
Right, so don't write Oregon off. We are positioned the best we've ever been in my adult lifetime to win this. So we can absolutely flip Oregon. For the first time in 4 decades, we're looking at a history-making election, flipping us from red to blue. And one of the reasons we can do this, I believe, is because, well, first, Kate Brown's regime has been so unpopular. She's the least popular governor in the United States right now. And anyone who comes in on the Democrat side is going to have to face down everything she did because they fully supported her. And people in all parties are sick to death of what they've done to Oregon. And then we have the splitter effect coming in. So we have Democrat Senator Betsy Johnson coming in, and all indications are that she splits 2-1 Democrat to Republican. That's very good news for a conservative Republican candidate to come through. And that's why I'm very optimistic. But on the flip side of that, a moderate Republican, a Republican that's bought and paid for by the establishment, is no contrast whatsoever to those other 2 Democrats coming in the general. And so we can't have that. And I'm coming in as the MAGA grassroots candidate, fighting from Eastern Oregon to flip everything red. And this is a fight, but so far we're doing really well.
Kerry, walk people through why do you think after 4 decades, what are the issues? What's driving this opportunity? You're sitting there saying, hey, don't write us off. We got all these patriots out there. You got good, hardworking citizens in Oregon. We can do this. What is it? Is it demographics? Is it a certain amount of issues? Are there people that would not be open to the MAGA message before that because of certain things that are happening? Why do you think that after 4 decades, we could actually flip Oregon?
The last 2 years have been very key in opening people's eyes, I think. But also, it's frankly because I'm a very different kind of candidate coming in. So in Oregon, the landscape looks like this. We have the I-5 corridor with a lot of blue counties straight down the freeway there. But buried in the middle of that I-5 corridor, we have a pocket of very conservative red folks who feel trapped there. And then we have the entire rest of the state, which is conservative rural Oregon. And they have felt so disenfranchised for year after year after year that they sit on their ballots during these elections. If there's no one coming onto that ballot to represent rural Oregon, they sit on their ballots. And the apathy is so extreme in Oregon that can affect the entire election. I mean, clearly we've had some voter fraud going on with Motor Voter and, our lovely mail-in ballot system, which is a whole other subject. But this time we have someone who is grassroots coming in from rural Oregon with natural resources background, a business owner, not a politician. And it's changing the entire landscape of this election.
Walk us through that for a second. When you say it's changing the landscape, what's the enthusiasm? What are people talking about when they're coming out to your rallies, when they're coming out to support you? What's the 1 or 2 things you're hearing from people?
That this race actually bridges the rural-urban divide in Oregon. And in Oregon, that is absolutely huge because when you excite that staunchly conservative base, those folks turn in their ballots, which is absolutely what we need to push this over. I mean, we're not looking at Democrat candidates who are just absolutely brilliant and qualified and just unbeatable. And it's never been that way. We just keep putting forth the wrong kind of candidate from our primaries. And that turns off the conservative base in Oregon. So this time we actually have a chance. And again, with that splitter candidate coming in, the numbers are absolutely there.
What is it about the establishment? We see this all over the country, but what's the mindset out in Oregon that they believe that you need to run a moderate, you need to run controlled opposition, you need to run kind of these milquetoast that are essentially Democratic light, right? Maybe they try to be a little more politer than the Democrats, but why is the establishment out in Oregon think that that's a winning solution?
You've got me because when I'm out across all 36 counties, I'm not tone deaf to what's going on in the counties. And they honestly seem to be. There's this very cookie cutter inside the box mentality. And these are folks who have positioned themselves as political insiders and experts. These are lobbyists that come in and pay for these candidates bought and paid for. And they just can't seem to break outside of the mentality that we have to run another moderate. And it's completely false because we've proven in our past 2 elections, especially, we had a candidate who came in and spent record-breaking millions, and he lost miserably. Rural Oregon rejected him. We have to have rural and urban conservatives come together. And then we had another moderate come through last time, and he lost. People just don't want something that's milquetoast. It's time to actually stand up for our people and fight for our freedoms. And if there is no contrast between the Republican candidate and the 2 Democrats coming in, why bother? And so I'm trying to kind of pull down that veil and wake people up with this.
Kerry, how do people find out more about you personally? How do they find out more about your campaign?
Yeah, they could go on to my website. It's just kerrymcquisten.com. And they can follow links there to all of my social media. And, I have a very active Facebook page. They can donate. They can get on my newsletter list and share the heck out of that. There are lots of ways to get involved.
Yeah, perfect. What we want to tell people, if you're not in the financial situation that you can donate, there's ways to be force multipliers. You can get in there and share content and be an active member of it. Kerry, fight on. It's amazing out there. This combination of somebody's trying to unite the conservatives, grassroots conservatives in rural Oregon, with the people just fed up in these urban areas, particularly Portland, the great city of Portland. It's a tragedy when you see it. Anybody that's ever been to Portland and loves that city, it's just a tragedy what's happened there. So fight on, and understand you're always welcome back in the war room.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm up against the swamp right now, so all the support I can get is welcome.
Kerry McQuisten, thank you very much out in Oregon. Do we have Greitens, Commander Greitens? Mm-hmm. Commander Greitens, we got you for about 30 seconds here. We're going to hold you through the break. Real quickly, Commander, I'm seeing NATO Supreme Allied commanders on TV all weekend that are telling me that that we're winning in Ukraine, and we've got every senior defense official over there that want to give extra arms. I tell you what, Erik, you hang on. You're a Navy commander. You fought over there in these some of the worst neighborhoods in the world. You hang on for a second. The Navy SEAL Commander Erik Greitens is going to join us. We're going to take a short commercial break. Maybe we'll have we got a little video from him over the weekend. We got Dave Ramaswamy also is going to join us. Dave's going to be on to talk about Congressman Omar is going rogue in Pakistan and upsetting this situation we've got with our great ally, India. Also, Mike Lindell is going to talk about this lawsuit that's been dropped in Arizona. Going to take a short break. We're going to be back. War Room Battleground in just a moment.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Striking fear in the hearts of liberals everywhere, folks. Liberals beware.
So welcome back to War Room Battleground. I want to bring in Commander Erik Greitens, former governor of Missouri, runner for the United States Senate. Commander, you were paid and trained to do that by the best folks in the world, not just the Navy, the Special Forces, but the Navy commandos that are the Navy SEALs. But is that Don Jr.? He looks like a pretty good shot. I mean, you used to do that for a living. Don Jr. looks like he could have done that for a living too, Commander.
Don Jr. can shoot, man. I am telling you, Steve, he is a great shot, and we had a tremendous time putting a few rounds downrange in Missouri. Nothing like Donald Trump Jr. and Erik Greitens together firing downrange to drive liberals crazy. It was a fantastic time. We were really grateful to have his support in Missouri.
By the way, I've got a lot of stories I could tell about of guys I know down in Texas at these hunting lodges. They say Don Jr. and Erik. They say these are serious hunters. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. Commander, I want you on here. One, an update in the race, but number two, you know, you've had this discussion over the weekend, and you've served over in that area of the world. But we've had the discussion over the weekend. You got these former Allied Supreme Commanders, you got all these guys, and they're talking about victory. All of a sudden, there's this, while Macron's been talking about de-escalating so he could win in France, de-escalation, something's taken over the American Uniparty, and particularly the neocon wing of that. They're actually talking about victory in Ukraine. The poor Ukrainian people, looks like Dresden, they're talking about victory, and they're defining victory as driving the Russians out. What is your sense of things over there, sir?
Well, first of all, remember who's bringing you this news. It's coming from the same people who brought you the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. It's coming from the same people who told you that coronavirus came from bat soup. It's coming from the same people who said that Hunter Biden's laptop was disinformation. It's coming from the same people who told you that those masks actually worked, that they forced school kids and people to wear for years. So if it's coming from the mainstream media and it's coming from the Uniparty, you can almost be sure that it's wrong. And, when it comes to military affairs, Steve, one of the things that's really important to point out is that everyone saw with their own eyes, they watched Joe Biden's military disaster in Afghanistan. I flew in and out of Bagram Air Base. Fifth graders could have designed that evacuation better. Well, what's important to remember here is that Biden has not held anyone responsible for what happened in Afghanistan. So the exact same team that ran the military disaster in Afghanistan is now giving a senile man who is not capable of being commander-in-chief advice on the Ukraine. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're coming out with more of this nonsense.
Commander, give us an update on the Missouri race. This is one of the most contentious Senate races in the country. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, the very quick update is that we are dominating the race, Steve. We are in a great spot because I'm the only MAGA candidate in this race. I've said that Mitch McConnell has got to go, that we need new America First leadership in the United States Senate. That's the leadership that I am bringing. And all of my opponents have said they're supporting Mitch McConnell. They want to support business as usual. They want to support politics as usual. They want to support the uniparty and the lobbyists. And so there's a very bright, clear contrast here, and we feel it everywhere we go. When I'm rolling into a Walmart, into a gas station, we roll into a restaurant, we've got people who are coming up to us saying, please keep fighting for us, because people recognize the country's in crisis. We need new, strong leadership, and that's exactly what we're going to bring.
Commander Greitens, how do people find out more and follow this campaign, including any of the videos they got of you and Don Jr. Doing target practice?
Yeah, if you want to check out that video, come on out to ericgreitens.com. That's ErikGreitens.com. Come on out, sign up, and we'd be honored to have you on this fantastic team. We are taking the country back.
What's social media? How do people follow you on social media?
Yeah, and on all of our social media, it's just at Erik Greitens. It's the @ ErikGreitens. Go out to at Erik Greitens. You can follow us on all the major platforms. And yeah, we've got the Donald Trump videos out. We've got the videos out from the time that we were down on the Mexican side of the southern border to expose Joe Biden's hypocrisy. All the videos that we put out on election integrity. Everything is there. Join us at the website and on social media.
Commander Greitens, thank you very much for joining us, War Room Battleground.
Thank you, sir.
These races are only going to get tougher. I got to tell you, these are incredibly tough in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Missouri, Alabama. These are tough Senate races. I want to bring in Dave Ramaswamy. I had Jay Consaro, and Jay was one of the key guys back at the Howdy Modi event that Modi did with Trump in Houston back during President Trump's first term. Dave, I brought Jay on the other day, and we had a clip from Royce White, but there's something very disturbing, particularly given the geopolitics of the moment. And as you know, given our focus here on taking down the Chinese Communist Party, I'm the only private citizen ever sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party for activity and trying to take them down in my time in the White House and then after, that India is absolutely essential. In fact, it's called the Indo-Pacific Strategy. We've gotten a much closer relationship with India, particularly during President Trump's administration. The Howdy Modi event, I told Jay and you this at the time, it was, I think, the single most powerful event I ever saw President Trump associated with. And President Trump went to India, and he was absolutely blown away by the response he had. Congressman Omar, and I think people look, her partisan politics, and she's a partisan, we're partisans, we understand that. But when you leave the shores of the United States, and there can be tons of disagreement about foreign policy, we understand that, particularly America First and us as American First nationalists. But she went to Pakistan, and I want you to put in perspective of what happened on this trip and how dangerous it is of what she was doing, particularly the signals she's sending to our great ally in India, sir.
Steve, why are there no Walmarts in Pakistan? Because every other mile they have targets. Commander Greitens put out this great video of him really hitting the mark every time. And that's the kind of toughness and resoluteness we need in our leadership. For too long, we've had Navy SEALs or the Navy SEAL Team 6 reporting to MEAL Team 6. And I think that should change. What happens now when, Congresswoman Omar goes to Pakistan? Of course, later the U.S. government put out a statement saying that she went in a personal capacity. But the way America sees things is a bit different from how the rest of the world sees it, because she's considered a representative of the U.S. government wherever she goes, whether it's an official visit or a private visit. And you're absolutely right. In the past, we've always had this consensus in America, politics stops at the water's edge. But in the new world, if you will, I mean, all of that is being thrown asunder. Specifically, when Congresswoman Omar went to Pakistan, it was strongly protested by the Indian government because she visited Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. I mean, Kashmir, as you know, or your viewers know, has been a point of contention between India and Pakistan ever since they both became independent in 1947. And there's been 4 wars fought over it, all of which India won. So now what you have is probably some Pakistani American businessmen who want to influence her in some way. And that's, I think, the backdrop of this trip. But, let me just frame it a little bit for your viewers. Tip O'Neill, who was a long-term Speaker of the House, famously said, all politics is local. But now all politics is local, funded by global interests. If you look at the donor base for any member of Congress, if you will, only a very small percentage of their campaign contributions comes from within the state. Most of it comes from outside the state. And also, many foreign entities, not just political parties, but also countries like Pakistan, countries in the Middle East, Russia, China, have figured out how to game the U.S. political system by routing their contributions by setting up front groups in America that in turn fund lobbying firms in DC. So back to, why is this important? What's the implications for America's national security? As Commander Greitens correctly said, the debacle last August in Afghanistan, most people, especially if you're a member of a military family, you still can't get over that. It's, I've heard from family members of people who were killed in action in Afghanistan, and they had tears in their eyes when they said, oh, my son died in vain, all for nothing, because in August 2021, the Taliban controlled more territory than they did in August 2001. And then, nearly 5,000 military members, 25,000 contractors. I mean, everybody died in vain, and we left behind $85 billion of military equipment. So back to now, what's the future implication? The Russia-Ukraine war is actually a global war with global implications. Specifically, the Arab Islamic world, Pakistan, Bangladesh are facing a big food crisis because they were importing wheat from Russia and Ukraine, which is pretty much ground to a standstill. And relatedly, they're facing a fuel crisis. So you've had masses of people on the streets of Pakistan protesting the recent ejection from power of Imran Khan. And so I believe Congresswoman Omar's visit was funded by a political donor in America who was close to Imran Khan. So it's like a lot of moving pieces. And this week in India, they're hosting their foremost security summit, where they have people from around the world. And the Indian government, as you rightly said, was a big ally of America. It's never done any hostile act against America. It was a big buyer of American military equipment under President Trump, conducted joint military exercises with the U.S. military when President Trump was in office. So all that is kind of being tossed out the window.
Huge. We got to bounce, but I got to ask you this. I want to have you back on later in the week. Maybe it's happened, and I follow the area pretty closely, but maybe it's happened and I just missed it. Has there ever been a sitting elected official in the United States Congress that's actually gone to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir with officials from the Pakistan government? Has that happened before?
No, never. It's the first time in history, first time since 1947. And this is why it's been received with such alarm and such concern at the Indian government's highest levels, because it really jeopardizes the U.S.-India relationship, which has actually weathered lots of storms over the last 20 years. But still, the bipartisan consensus and support for India has been very strong. And this visit jeopardized that.
It's outrageous. I'm going to have you back on with Jay. I've said for years, the two places that are tinder boxes we got to watch out for are the South China Sea and the islands created by the Chinese Communist Party, and Kashmir up there in the northwest frontier of India. They are tinderboxes. And if those, it's not like even Ukraine. If something goes off there, you're going to see things metastasize quickly. It is the most irresponsible thing I've seen a member of Congress do, to go to Pakistan and to go with Pakistani officials to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is outrageous. And something's got to be done about it. Dave, how do people, social media, how do people follow you?
Steve, people can follow me on Real America's Voice. I commentate on that channel regularly on your show, Dr. Gina's show. And any comments I've made on the show, I send it on to your producer so they can put it up on your site.
We'll put it up on Getter. Dave Ramaswamy, thank you so much. Absolutely incredible news coming out there. I want to thank you for coming on, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
The always brilliant Dave Ramaswamy. I'm now honored to have Mike Lindell. I think it's the first time Mike Lindell has ever been. Frank TV has made this entire hour possible every day, and really want to thank the team, particularly Logan. What a great young producer. Just fantastic. Mike Lindell, kind of a neutron bomb dropped on Friday in Arizona about this lawsuit. I want to take a few more minutes. I think we're trying to get Dershowitz tomorrow. We got about 5 or 6 minutes. This is something you've been fighting, and I tell people, when you see Lindell on these shows, you see him interviewed, that's 1/100th of what this guy's doing nonstop. So walk me through the work that's gone on to get to the situation that Kerry, Lake, and Fincham and others can step up, and you're going to have other states and actually drop this massive lawsuit that's been dropped in Arizona.
Well, first of all, Steve, I want to welcome, thanks for having me on your show here on frankspeech.com. And by the way, you can use your promo code today. I hear you got the promo code Bannon here, and you can use that. You're the first to announce the buy one, get one free day. And we're going to turn that to a whole week here. Right here on Frank Speech. As soon as you're done watching the show, scroll down, click on the store here at Frank Speech, and use the promo code Bannon. You get a lot of the stuff there for the buy one get one free. Steve, you brought it up. That complaint was worked on for about 5 months with 5 different lawyers and law firms, and Alan Dershowitz being one of them. The plaintiffs now, in this case, it's a preliminary injunction under 42-USC 1983, that's lawyer talk for, and this is to the violations they did to our right to vote and due process, all this stuff. This is what the machines have done. And the preliminary injunction is to get rid of all the machines, all the computers in the election, in future elections. Kerry Lake.
Mike, hang on a second. What about if people say, hey, I know Kerry Lake's the plaintiff, but this is just sour grapes of Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell's got all these suits by the machine guys, and this is just Mike Lindell opening up another front to try to either divert attention or maybe hit their business model by getting the machines taken out. What's your response to the left is saying this is just sour grapes of Mike Lindell, and he's trying to hurt the business model of Dominion, and these other guys are suing him for billions of dollars?
No, yeah, well, you remember, Steve, I asked them to sue me, and I'm asking ES&S, which is the gorilla in the room. Come on, ES&S, you can sue me too. They mean nothing, Steve. They're frivolous lawsuits that were put out there for lawfare, so places like Newsmax and Fox don't talk, which is they're not going to talk about this lawsuit or these lawsuits. It is not sour grapes. It's to save our country. We have all these other things going on, from the Supreme Court complaint that ES is still sitting out there with the AGs. That's just one thing going on. But all these places to decertify the 2020 election. Above all, I've said it before, our safety net here is at all costs, we have to have the machines gone, because there is no way you can steal enough votes to win an election if you don't have the machines. It's impossible, Steve. And so these machines, this is a safety net, and this was plaintiffs in every state we're going to. There'll be different plaintiffs in every state, but every voter is potentially a plaintiff. And we've actually got a petition up here on Frank Speech. You can go there, sign the petition to get rid of the machines. But this is far from sour grapes. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, remember the Democrats warned us of these machines. They warned us of this cyber attack, and everybody's on board with this. 35% of Democrats now in a poll believe this election was stolen and through the machines. So this is not about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. I was on Real America's Voice earlier, and I was over there, and John brought it up. He said, Why would anybody want the machines? They just finished France's election. They had everything counted in one day. They have 1/4 of the population, but we just add more people. And Steve, at my show here following yours, we're going to go through. I have the secure paper, and we have all this. And I'll tell you this. I want to tell you this, Steve, since Friday, since this case dropped, the left media is the ones that picked it up. You had Business Insider, Newsweek. These guys did good articles. Where is Fox and Newsmax, Steve? Where are they to report this? It's just news, right?
We've got only a minute, but I want to go back to that topic right there. The left's had tremendous coverage of this. I mean, they've gone into details. They're taking it seriously. They go into details about what the junctions asked for. They're talking about the money you did. Why are Fox and Newsmax? Why is it total crickets on this?
Well, I believe that Fox, I believe they're just traitors to the country, and I believe Newsmax are cowards. That's as simple as that. Cowards and traitors. Cowards and traitors. Where does Salem Media fall into that? We're going to find out tonight. I actually have a call with some of their executives. Are you going to actually report filed lawsuits in federal court in our country that everybody, the whole world is watching? Will they report it? We'll let you know tomorrow, Steve. I'll come on your show and let you know tomorrow. What Salem? I got their executives on the phone after my show tonight. But that's it. All the conservative media, if you take out about 5 outlets, we don't have a voice at all other than the left. At least they're reporting it. Jimmy Kimmel, probably, we're going to have him on my show, a thing he did last week.
No, MSNBC does a great. We got to bounce. We're going to go right live to your show here in about 30 seconds. Tomorrow, we're going to try to get Alan Dershowitz, Mike, back on. This suit is very, very important. Mike, I want to thank you for the buy one, get one free. Thank you for everything you're doing for us to put this show up on Frank's Speech. Really appreciate it. The audience loves it.
Thanks,
Mike Lindell, he'll be on the war. He follows right here on Frank's Speech, and Mike will be on the show tomorrow morning with Alan Dershowitz. We talk about this huge lawsuit asking for injunctive relief. Okay, we'll see you back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. in the War Room.